Welcome, everyone, and I'm glad you're here. Today is really meant to be a companion to the full guide on how to start an insurance agency, which is available from the team at Pinnacle Financial Services. So, this is not going to be just a page by page walkthrough. Over the next 15 minutes or so, we're going to focus on the biggest concerns involved in building an insurance agency. We'll cover topics like choosing the right business structure, understanding compensation models, recruiting and growing a team, building your brand, and planning for the future. Our goal today is to step back and look at the bigger picture. So we want you to think strategically about the kind of business you're trying to build, because at the end of the day, there's a big difference between creating an agency that's centered around your own personal production and building an organization that can grow, scale, and eventually operate beyond just you. The full guide, now that'll go much deeper into each of these topics, but today we're going to stay at a higher level and focus on the big picture. So here's the main takeaway I want you to remember. Starting an agency isn't just about selling insurance, it's about building a business. A successful agency is really a system made up of several key parts. First, you have legal, operational foundation, making sure your business is set up the right way. Next, you'll have to understand how compensation flows, because that's how you get paid impacts how you grow. Third is recruiting and supporting the right people. The best agencies aren't built on one producer. They're built on developing and helping other agents succeed. Next, in this business, people buy from people they trust. So building a strong reputation and a consistent presence is critical. Finally, there's planning for the future, whether that's creating a business that can grow, be passed on, eventually be sold. You want to build something that has value beyond your own personal production. If there's one thing I'd like to have everybody walk away with today is this. There is a difference between thinking like a producer and thinking like a business owner. A producer, you're focusing on the next sale. A business owner builds systems. You're developing people and you're creating something that continues to grow over time. So one of the first decisions, probably one of the biggest decisions you make, is how you're going to structure your business. So the guide covers several common options, including sole proprietorships, LLCs, partnerships, C Corps, S Corps. Each has their own advantages, considerations. We're not going to dive into each one of those. What I want you to remember is this. Your business entity is much more than just paperwork. The structure you choose can impact your personal liability, how you tax, how you hire employees, building partnerships. So when you're getting started, some agents are able to operate without forming a formal entity, depending on how the carriers they contracted with. But as the agency grows, decisions become more important. If you're serious about building a long-term business, not just selling policy, it makes sense to establish the right foundation early on. You want to work with a CPA, choose the best structure that fits for you. One way to simplify this decision is to think about the questions your business structure is answering. How much personal liability you want to protect? How complicated are taxes likely to become? Will carriers and business partners and clients see my agency as an established business? And perhaps most importantly, will the structure support where I want the agency to be in 5 or 10 years? So we're going to discuss in the guide all these different business entities, their advantages, disadvantages. So the practical advice, pretty simple. Don't just choose a business structure simply because it's the easiest option today. Again, work with a CPA, choose the best structure that supports where you want your agency to go tomorrow. Now let's shift from the legal side of the business to how an insurance agency actually operates. At the top, you have the insurance carriers. Then you have what are called FMOs, field marketing organization, filed by agency owners, team leaders, and finally agents who are working directly with clients. Understanding the structure is important because it impacts much more than just commission. It influences your carrier access, the products you can offer, the training and compliance support available to you, marketing resources, technology, and ultimately the level of service you can provide to your agents. For someone building an agency, here's some big takeaways. Compensation is tied to support. If you're receiving override commissions because you've recruited agents, those commissions, they come with responsibility. Your job isn't simply to sign agents up, it's to help them succeed. And that means providing training, helping them stay compliant, offering technology and systems that make their jobs easier, assist them with marketing, generating leads where possible, and being able to give guidance. A strong agency understands that overrides aren't passive income. They're earned by creating value. So whenever you think of compensation, think about responsibility at the same time. So let's keep compensation simple. One policy is issued and the premium is collected. Insurance carrier pays the commission. That commission is often distributed based on contract hierarchy. The producing agent receives their compensation, and depending on the structure, the agency owner, manager, FMO, the uplines, in essence, receive an override. The important thing to remember is that the overrides just aren't additional income. They're tied to providing real value. Includes those items that we discussed, like recruiting and training, compliance support, technology, operational guidance. The best agencies are transparent about how compensation works, so agents clearly understand what they earn, what the agency earns, and the support they're receiving in return. Recruiting, one of the biggest mindset shifts is moving from growing through your own production to growing through a team. A sole producer is limited by their own time, where an agency owner builds systems, supports agents, and helps others succeed. The bigger is the payoff than just more sales. It creates market expansion, diversified revenue, recurring income, and a business that's built to last. But recruiting only works if you have a strong value prop. Agents have choices. So they need a clear reason to join your agency and confidence you will help them succeed. And when it comes to recruiting agents, remember this, you're not just competing for someone's contract, you're competing for their confidence. Agents today have options, and they're looking for more than just a piece of assistance to help write some business. The guide highlights several things agents consistently value. Yes, they care about compensation, of course. They want transparency, though, about how overrides work. They also want hand-to-hand support, access to leads, marketing, resources, and strong portfolio of carriers. And they feel that they're joining a team that's invested in their success. That's really your value proposition. Don't lead the conversation with commissions alone. Position your agency around several things, including strong economic and strong support. In other words, show your agents not only how they'll earn money, but also how you'll help them grow. They want to know, how will I be trained? What's the process for generating additional business? What about compliance issues, carriers that I have access to, and then technology systems? Once you develop that strong value prop, the next question is, where do you find actual good agents? So this is a difficult challenge, and there's many different ways to do it. Strongest recruiting strategies, they're diversified. Start with the people you already know and trust you. Your existing network can often help you find good producers, best long-term relationships. Social media is another powerful tool. Platforms like LinkedIn or Facebook allow you to connect with both licensed agents and people who are exploring a new career. So don't overlook industry events as well, where there's conferences, networking events, local meetings. These are opportunities to build real relationships, also demonstrate your expertise, and position your agency as a place where agents can grow, not just get a contract. The best recruiting strategy isn't relying on one source. Let's also talk a little bit about branding because it's one of the most misunderstood parts of building an agency. A lot of people think branding is just having a nice logo or maybe a good looking website. Those things matter, but they're only one small piece of the puzzle. Your brand is really how people perceive your business. It's how you set your agency apart, communicate your value, build trust in a business where trust is everything. That's why your brand matters. It should clearly communicate who you serve, what makes your agency different, and why someone should choose to work with you instead of a dozen other options. The strongest agencies aren't trying to be necessarily everything to everyone. They know exactly who they serve. They understand the problems that they solve, and they consistently communicate that message every chance they get. When people know what you stand for, trust becomes much easier to build. And that's ultimately what drives the growth. So once you continually work on that brand, next step, making sure people can actually find you. So the guide highlights several important digital marketing tools, including a professional website, educational blog content, social media, video content, online business profiles, and digital advertising. Rather than looking at these as separate marketing tactics, think of them as working together towards three goals: building credibility, increasing visibility, and then generating leads. Also, the importance of building profiles and search engine optimization, which we know as SEO. When someone searches online for insurance solutions in their area, you want your agency to be one of the businesses they find. At the end of the day, every digital touch point has the same purpose, which is to reduce uncertainty. The easier you make it for someone to understand who you are, what you do, and why they should trust you, the more likely they are to reach out when they are ready to make a decision. Let's talk now about something that many agency owners don't think about until it's too late: planning for the future. The guide reminds us that stepping away from an agency takes as much planning and intention as building it in the first place. So whether retirement is many years away or somewhere a little bit closer down the road, it's never too early to think about what the next chapter may look like. There are several options at some point you could take. Some owners gradually step back while remaining involved in the business. Others choose a partial exit, bringing in new leadership over time. Some just transfer the agency to say a family member or a trusted successor. And others decide to sell the business to an outside buyer. So no matter which path you choose, they all have one thing in common: preparation. A well thought out transition plan protects everyone involved: owner, employees, the agents, the clients, all the carrier relationships that help build the business in the first place. So the agencies that create lasting value are the ones that plan for tomorrow while they're still focused on growing today. The full guide goes into it again in greater detail, but if you remember these things, you'll have a solid framework for building and growing your agency. First off, building the foundation, choosing the right business entity, getting your license in place, securing errors and omissions, setting up your accounting system, making sure you have a strong compliance practice. Next is creating that operating system. That's where you establish your carrier relationships. You're choosing that right FMO as a partner, implementing different technology and CRM systems, streamlining that contracting, and building processes that allow your business to operate efficiently. Step 3, now is the time to build that brand. Create a consistent flow of leads, recruit quality agents, and invest in training and developing so both you and your team continue improving. Step 4, scaling. As the agency grows, you begin adding managers, team leaders, documenting those processes and putting quality control measures in place so that business doesn't rely entirely on you. And finally, planning for that transition, whether you're eventually going to sell the agency, pass it on, or gradually step away, the best time to plan your exit is long before you actually need it. That's how you protect the value you work so hard to build. If you take nothing else away from today, remember the roadmap. If you do these things well, you'll be building more than an insurance agency. You're going to be building a business that lasts with value. So as we finish up, I want to leave you with one final thought. Starting an agency is an exciting opportunity. It offers the potential for independence, recurring income, and chance to build a business that has real long-term value. But successful agencies, listen, they just don't happen by accident. They're built with intention. They start with creating the right business structure, one that supports risk of today and growth for the future, understanding the compensation models before you begin recruiting. And when you do recruit, focusing on support, not just commission. The agency that attracts and keeps agents are the ones that invest in their success. At the same time, building that brand that consistently communicates trust, credibility, and expertise. And finally, document those systems. Build processes that allow your agency to operate consistently so that businesses can continue to grow beyond the owner. If you have any questions, you want to get a copy of our guide on how to start your business and speak to a representative, reach out to the Pinnacle team today at 800-772-6881 or healthsales@pfsinsurance.com.